Welcome to E-Bible Fellowship's Evening Bible Studies with your host and Bible teacher, Chris McCann. For more studies, visit our website at www.ebiblefellowship.org. And now, here's Chris McCann.
Hello and welcome to E-Bible Fellowship's Bible study in the book of Genesis. This is study number 16 in Genesis chapter 41. And I'll begin reading in verse 14. Then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they brought him hastily out of the dungeon, and he shaved himself and changed his raiment, and came in unto Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, I have dreamed a dream, and there is none that can interpret it. And I have heard say of thee that thou canst understand a dream to interpret it. And Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, It is not in me. God shall give Pharaoh an answer of peace. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, In my dream, behold, I stood upon the bank of the river, and behold, there came up out of the river 7 kine, fat-fleshed and well-favored, and they fed in a meadow. And behold, 7 other kine came up after them, poor, and very ill-favored and lean-fleshed, such as I never saw in all the land of Egypt for badness. And the lean and the ill-favored kine did eat up the first 7 fat kine. And when they had eaten them up, it could not be known that they had eaten them, but they were still ill-favored, as at the beginning. So I awoke, and I saw in my dream, and behold, 7 ears came up, in one stalk full and good, and behold, 7 ears withered thin, and blasted with the east wind sprung up after them. And the thin ears devoured the 7 good ears. And I told this unto the magicians, but there was none that could declare it to me. And Joseph said unto Pharaoh, The dream of Pharaoh is one. God has showed Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 good kine are 7 years, and the 7 good ears are 7 years. The dream is one. And the 7 thin and ill-favored kine that came up after them are 7 years. And the 7 empty ears blasted with the east wind shall be 7 years of famine. This is the thing which I have spoken unto Pharaoh. What God is about to do, he showeth unto Pharaoh. And I'll stop reading there. Well, we have been spending, considerable amount of time with Pharaoh's dreams, and we have understood. We have looked and found understanding regarding the 7 years of plenty, or in the dream. In the dream, there were 7 ill-favored, to begin with, 7 kine came up who were fat-fleshed, and then came up the ill-favored and lean-fleshed kine and ate them up, followed by the 7 stalks of corn, rank and good, and 7 thin ears followed them and devoured them. In both instances, and now Pharaoh is going over his dream once again with Joseph. He is adding a little detail than we read earlier when God was recounting the dreams of Pharaoh. And yet we would have to say the Lord is simply, he is telling us the same thing again. And even the dreams themselves were duplicates. That's what Joseph is saying to Pharaoh. The dream is one. The 7 fat kine devoured by the 7 thin, ill-favored kine is the same as the 7 rank and full ears of corn devoured by the 7 thin ears blasted by the east wind. And so the truth, the meaning of the good kind being devoured by the evil kind, and then the good corn being devoured by the evil corn, is the same. It's all one. So even in the dream itself, God is doubling it and emphasizing it. And now, after having revealed and given us a detailed account of the dream of Pharaoh, the Lord is now having Pharaoh state it once more to Joseph, because Joseph has been brought. Joseph was the one who, the prisoner, who interpreted the butler's dream as well as the baker. And the butler remembered his faults as he heard Pharaoh speak of his dream. And Pharaoh was very troubled about the dream, and he instantly remembered Joseph. And now Joseph is coming forth. We know Joseph is 30 years old. We know that Joseph was sold as a slave at age 17. And let's see, we also were told in verse 1 of this chapter, Genesis 41, verse 1, it came to pass at the end of 2 full years that Pharaoh dreamed. Now that's, it must be related to the prison stay of Joseph. And since the butler and the baker had their dreams come to pass as Joseph had interpreted. And so that means we can break up the 13 years of Joseph in Egypt. 17, he sold as a slave into Potiphar's house, and he works there and rises as Potiphar makes him, sets him as Lord over the house beside himself for 11 years until he's 28. Then, due to the false accusation, false testimony, false witness of Potiphar's wife, that Joseph had sought to lie with her when it was the other way around, he's thrown into prison 2 years. And that breaks up the 13-year period, 11 and 2, which we are not surprised at, because that's how God breaks up the history of the world, from creation to the first coming of Christ in 7 BC. Creation date, according to the biblical calendar of history, was the year 11,013 BC. And so Jesus, the Messiah, entered into the human race 7 BC. We know precisely it was the 11,006th year of Earth's history. So 11,000 years, and then Christ comes the first time, and it is for his lifespan of 40 calendar years, 7 BC to 33 AD. Minus 1, 39 actual years. Jesus' actual age was 38 and a half when he went to the cross and resurrected. But we then have another period of time, the New Testament age, since 33 AD, that is about 2,000 years before the second coming of Christ. And the second coming of Christ, you might think is 2033, because you've heard E-Bible Fellowship teaches, well, Christ is coming 2033 to destroy the world. Well, not exactly. We teach, because the Bible reveals, Christ came May 21, 2011, as the judge of the earth and to begin Judgment Day, and 2033 is actually the completion of his coming. But nevertheless, you can see 33 AD, 2033, even 2,000 years there. And so it's a little uncanny, really, when we see Joseph, and we'll be told he's 30 years of age, and this 13-year period that is broken up 11 and 2, just like the history of the world, 11,000 years to the first coming, and and then 2,000 years, the second coming, and that's the total history of the world, with a little tacked on period in the year 2033 from creation. It would be 13,046 calendar years, 13,045 actual years. And that's also in keeping with Joseph's earlier dreams when he was in Canaan and in his father Jacob's house. Remember, that's why his brethren hated him, because of his dreams. And he had one dream where his brethren bowed down to him, and they were furious at that. He's one of the younger sons. And how many brethren did Joseph have? 11. He was one of 12. We know the 12 tribes of Israel. Israel is Jacob. And so if his brethren bowed down, that was 11. Then he had a second dream. And in the second dream, his brethren again bowed down, but so did in the dream, it was the sun, moon, and stars. Let me turn back there. And it, it's helpful, I think, to be reminded of these things. And I know some people might be tuning in who weren't following earlier. And we read in Genesis 37, verse 5, and Joseph dreamed a dream, and he told it his brethren, and they hated him yet the more. And he said unto them, Hear, I pray you, this dream which I have dreamed. For behold, we were binding sheaves in the field, and lo, my sheaf arose, and also stood upright, and behold, your sheaves stood round about, and made obeisance to my sheaf. And his brethren said to him, Shalt thou indeed reign over us, or shalt thou indeed have dominion over us? And they hated him yet the more for his dreams and for his words. And again, that would be 11 brethren bowing down. Then in verse 9, and he dreamed yet another dream, and told it his brethren, and said, Behold, I have dreamed a dream more. And behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars made obeisance to me. So, and this time, the sun and the moon will be likened to his father and mother. And the stars are counted 11, and the 11 brothers got the point. So did Jacob. And Jacob, it goes on to say in verse 10, and he told it to his father and to his brethren, and his father rebuked him and said unto him, What is this dream that thou hast dreamed? Shall I and thy mother and thy brethren indeed come to bow down ourselves to thee to the earth? And his brethren envied him, but his father observed the same. And can you see it? First dream, 11. Second dream, 13. 11 stars plus sun plus moon, 13. 11 and 13, two additional. And that's what we're finding in chapter 41, that it's after 13 years broken up, two distinct periods, 11 years service to Potiphar, and 2 years in the prison. And now he's brought hastily out of the prison. The word hastily means to run. Back in verse 14, then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they brought him hastily out of the dungeon, and he changed himself and changed his raiment and came in unto Pharaoh. This word hastily is the same word that we find in 1 Samuel 17 when David hasted and ran with his sling and his stone towards Goliath, and he did battle with a giant and slew him with the sling and the stone. It's also the word translated run from Psalm 119, verse 32. I will run the way of thy commandments. And that has to do with obedience. God speaks of walking in the commandments, walking in truth, walking in the statutes. And that's when someone becomes saved. Prior to salvation, we're like an invalid. We're lame in our feet. We're very much like the man who was by the beautiful gate of the temple, and he couldn't walk. And then I think it was Peter said, "Rise up." And so he was begging, "Silver and gold have I none, but rise up." And he was able to stand and leap and run. The point is, his ankle bones, his legs, his feet received strength, and now he had newfound ability to physically walk as a result of the miracle. But that miracle typifies salvation of sinners who previously, prior to salvation, had no ability to keep God's commandments. At least not in the heart. We had a desperately wicked heart. Maybe outwardly we were doing some things we thought were pleasing to God or were righteous acts. But inwardly we had a gusher of iniquity. Out of the heart proceeds all manner of evil. And it's not until salvation, when you receive a new heart and a new spirit, that gusher is capped. And now we have this ability to bring the body under, to serve the Lord, righteous action unto righteous action by the grace of God. Well, now what we also see is that, and we talked about this, that Joseph points to God, and God will give the interpretation. And he also says in verse 28 of Genesis 41, "This is the thing which I have spoken unto Pharaoh. What God is about to do, he showeth unto Pharaoh." He showeth unto Pharaoh through the dream. And I've mentioned before, the dream is akin to the gospel. God did bring divine revelation to prophets of old in the form of dreams or visions, and it was a method he used to impart understanding, and they would write down the vision. The book of Isaiah 1 verse 1, the vision of Isaiah the prophet, and other prophets would receive the vision, and so when the Lord gave Pharaoh the dream and is providing Joseph as the interpreter, it came from God. It is divine revelation, and so it also is very significant concerning God's program of times and seasons, as the information here has to do with the church age, and then the end of the church age and a period of great tribulation when judgment begins at the house of God or upon the churches. And so that's why the Lord is saying, this is the thing which I have spoken unto Pharaoh. What God is about to do, he showeth unto Pharaoh. God is revealing it beforehand. He's about to do it. Now, historically, that was the case. The 7 years of plenty were soon to start, at the point, really, of Joseph's coming out of the dungeon. It was that year that the 7 years of plenty would start, and they would begin to store up the grain, and immediately followed by the 7 years of famine. And so historically, God was about to do it. Now, spiritually, of course, the Joseph was born 1916 BC, and he was 30 in 1886 BC. The 7 years of plenty would go from 1886 to 1879. And in 1879, the famine would begin. And 2 years into the famine, 1877, is when he would reveal himself to his brethren, and the family of Jacob would enter into Egypt for 5 years that remained of the famine until 1872. So, those dates are 3,800, quite a long way away, almost 4,000 years ago. And yet the Lord, he gave information in the dreams to be recorded in the Word of God, the Bible, that would be pertinent for the end time of the world, the end of the church, the end of the world, and would serve to spiritually feed his people, nourish his people, the elect, at that grievous stage, the final stage of Earth's history. And so this word showeth, the Hebrew word translated showeth, is, it's number 5046, and it's the same word from Psalm 147, verse 19, that says, He showeth his word unto Jacob, his statutes and his judgments unto Israel. God showeth his word. He showeth his word, he showeth his statutes to Jacob and Israel, to the people of God. The people of God. God takes care to show it. Over in Isaiah 41, we find the same word show, or showeth. Isaiah 41, verse 21, Produce your cause, saith Jehovah. Bring forth your strong reasons, saith the King of Jacob. Let them bring them forth, and show us what shall happen. Let them show, and this is the word, the former things, what they be, that we may consider them, and know the latter end of them, or declare us things for to come. Show the things that are to come hereafter, that we may know that ye are gods. Yea, do good or do evil, that we may be dismayed and behold it together. God is saying that the true God, and he is the true God, shows things to come. He shows things to come. It's false gods, who are no gods actually, who cannot show the former things or things to come. They have no life. They have no understanding, no knowledge, no wisdom. They have no insight. A false god, an idol god, therefore, would be very fitting for the doctrine. Well, no man knows. No man knows, because our God that we have made, out of our own imagination, does not reveal such things. Well, that's not the God of the Bible. The God of the Bible, as we see in Genesis 41, he is showing Pharaoh what he's about to do. And not only Pharaoh, he is showing us, as he made sure it was written down, recorded in Scripture, and preserved and kept for thousands of years, so that we at this day and age could read and learn and understand. That's the foresight. That is the omniscience of the all-wise God of Scripture. Idols, they don't possess such knowledge and understanding. They have nothing, because they're dead, and those who follow them and who believe in them are equally dead in soul. In Isaiah 46, we find this word that was translated showeth, 50:46, but here it's translated as declaring. Isaiah 46 in verse 9, remember the former things of old, for I am God, and there is none else. I am God, and there is none like me, declaring the end from the beginning, or again, showing the end from the beginning, and from ancient times the things that are not yet done, saying, my counsel shall stand, and I will do all my pleasure. God declares the end from the beginning. Genesis is the book of beginnings, isn't it? In the book of Genesis, with the flood account, Jesus said, as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be with the coming of the Son of Man. Or the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah in the time of Lot. The Lord also likens his coming to the days of Lot. And why? Well, because when we read those accounts, and E-Bible Fellowship has gone verse by verse, we're presently in Genesis chapter 41. Well, we start in Genesis 1 verse 1 several years ago, and we've gone through the flood account, we've gone through the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, and we're continuing to go verse by verse through the beginning book of the Bible. And one thing that definitely strikes you as you carefully take the time to go over the scriptures, to really pour into studying the Bible, is just how often God in the very beginning declared things, showed things that had to do with the end. And we've marveled, yet we really shouldn't, because he is God. He is God. He's not a fake God.
Thank you for joining us for E-Bible Fellowship's Evening Bible Studies with your host and Bible teacher, Chris McCann. For more studies and information, visit our website at www.ebiblefellowship.org. Until our next Bible study, may the Lord's perfect will be done.